Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Star Wars EU book study stream. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late tonight, but my mother's still. I thought I'll just do it without the webcam tonight. She's using my phone anyway, and I thought no big deal. But then as I was getting ready to start everything, I realized that I've got the books that I want to show and everything for Dark Empire. So I thought, I do need a webcam. So I was going to get it, and then getting lights, and then plugging some stuff up, other stuff got unplugged and whatnot. But do have my daughter in the background. You'll hear her a little bit. She might call me away for a second. She's not feeling too great tonight. So we will see there. But without further ado, let me go ahead and welcome my co-host, Mr. Darth Sever. Welcome, sir.
Hello, Professor. Long time no see.
Indeed. I hope you're
Well,
wonderful.
at least as Darth Sever and Professor Geek, anyway.
I hope your Life Day celebration was wonderful.
Oh, a little too much berry pudding, whatever it is.
Welcome to the chat there, everybody. I do see the usual crew here with us: Darth Enigma, Nathaniel's Lozball, Ghost Planet Max Inc. was there. My dear Sound Engraver popped in to say hi. She's on her way home now. This is going to be, just to remind people. Oh, go ahead.
Did you notice you had a couple of super chats?
No, I didn't. I didn't see the super chats.
There were super chats earlier from someone who wasn't going to be able to be here.
Really?
I can't remember the name. I'm sorry.
Let me see if I can't find it. Sorry to whoever that was. I know I can find it some which way or another, but
as of course we find out in the book, using the dark side of the Force drains the body, leaves us weaker as we go on.
Yeah, when you leave super chats early, the chat always bumps up. But let me see if I can find that really quickly to see who did that, just so I can shout them out. If I had my phone, I could find it easily, but my daughter has my phone right now. So let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know right now. Sorry to whoever that was. I will try to find it and shout you out tomorrow night's stream. I will find it and I'll shout you out on tomorrow night's live stream. But thanks for letting me know that, Al. I did not know about that. So these Friday night streams, I've got Alyssa in the background, so we try to keep them to around an hour-ish. That's why we cut off little tiny bites at a time. Now you might ask, well, you're talking about a whole graphic novel here / radio drama. And that's true, but we're not really going to go through this like we usually do with some of the book studies, talking about the entirety of the narrative and the decision to do this and the decision to do that. We're going to more talk about these, just kind of, our impressions of it, what we think about it in general, what it adds to the EU and so forth. And we're doing part 1 tonight. Part 2 will be next week, and part 3 will be the week after. So I've got a lot to say about this.
I know you do.
I'll just preface it first outright, and then I'll ask Al what he thinks in terms of like preface thoughts. But as I said in my little teaser video, just as a story, I hate this. I hate it. I think it's the stupidest idea in the world. There are some good things in it, but I think that it's just such an ill-conceived idea. And I'll go through what I mean by that. But I'm not just here to dump on it all the way. I do appreciate how the EU has formed around it and made it a part of the EU. And we're going to talk a little bit about the history of that in a moment. But just your initial thoughts on this, Al. What do you think? Because you just listened to it the other day and you're fresh off the experience.
Yeah, I'm fresh off of listening to it, processing the story. I found it very middle of the road as far as an adventure story goes. Nothing too spectacular or life altering, although I did have some issues with some of the character choices with some of our heroes, and which I'm sure is something you're probably going to want to touch on little bit later.
Oh yeah.
An issue that everybody has been discussing. That's been the problem with a certain trilogy that recently may have
Hmm.
theaters
Hmm.
the last 10 years about something they did to Luke and how that was handled, and even Princess Leia to an extent, and
Hmm.
maybe even Han Solo.
Hmm. Yeah.
I had a few issues with Han Solo too,
Yeah.
but it was nice to hear Lando actually
Yeah.
done by
Billy D.
Billy D.
Williams
Williams,
coming back. Yeah.
and I was trying to picture what these Devastators, how they actually operate
Yeah.
and work, because I honestly I listened more than I watched
Hmm.
the audio drama because, quite frankly, I didn't think the art was all that.
Yeah. We'll
I
talk about that too.
have about the same issue I did with that as I did with The Lizard by Tim Sale. But anyway, that's just an in joke between me and the professor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if he remembers. You get it.
Oh, I do. I know. Yeah.
Remember
The
that.
Spider-Man blue.
The kerfuffle over that we had.
I don't hate Tim Sale. I
Don't hate
just
Tim
don't like
Sale's
the
art.
lizard.
Just didn't like his lizard.
Um,
Stand by
before
that.
before I go any farther, though, I did just want to. Eldritch fan did pop in for a moment, and he did say it was him with the super chat. So thank you, Eldritch fan. I appreciate it.
That's who it was. That's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah, when I get my phone back from my daughter, I will definitely read those chats for you tomorrow night and shout those out. But much appreciated. So, yeah, I got some things to say and some things to go into more detail with what you just said. But I think the best thing is to like let's go back to the early '90s here and give us some history about this because Dark Empire is really at the ground floor of the EU. In fact, in the nice graphic novel I have here, in the beginning of it, we've got a foreword by Kevin J. Anderson, the great Kevin J. Anderson, who wrote the Jedi trilogy and wrote, so many great things. Batman and Superman. I've got an autographed copy of his Batman, Superman allies. Great writer, did a lot of stuff with Star Wars, Dune, and so forth, and other things. But he talked about in his foreword that this was kind of the ground floor of the EU. Dark Horse had commissioned Tom Veitch, the writer of Dark Empire. And first of all, I should say, too, let me just break in. Tom Veitch tragically passed away 2020, I think. They say from a C virus, now I don't know if that's true or not, because anybody who you could have died of cancer during the virus, and as long as you mentioned the word and name of the virus 10 minutes before that, that put you down as dying of the virus. So I don't know really what he died from, but that's tragic. Tom Veitch did give us a lot of great stories from Tales of the Jedi. He's not a crap writer. I'm going to really be critical of his writing in Dark Empire, but I did just want to make it a delineation that I'm not talking about the man. It's tragic that he passed. Very sorry for that. He did give us some wonderful Star Wars otherwise. But don't know what he was smoking when he did Dark Empire. Now, Dark Horse approach, or I don't know how it worked out, but Tom Veitch was writing this comic series. Marvel had done their Star Wars stuff, but that was pretty much over. And that was never really like any kind of loose canon in terms of Lucas's perspective anyway. So Dark Horse was going to do this continuation of the original trilogy, and they got Tom Veitch to write this comic. Now, at the same time, I forget the publisher of the books, but the book publishers had gotten Timothy Zahn to write the Thrawn trilogy. So you had Tom Veitch writing Dark Empire and Timothy Zahn writing the Thrawn trilogy, kind of unbeknownst to each other. And then, sort of sort of during / after the fact, it was decided that this was all going to be part of the same universe. So Kevin J. Anderson, really hats off to him, the one who was going to go write books after this, had to go back and see what Tom Veitch was doing, what Zahn was doing, kind of get them talking to each other and make sure that they're all, not conflicting, because Tom Veitch had Leia pregnant, as we see in the story, and he didn't know that Zahn had, was having Leia have twins. So the decision was made to set Dark Empire so many years after the Thrawn trilogy. And, the twins are off in hiding, as they worked into the book and so forth. There's also the thing, by the Thrawn trilogy, we had Coruscant was reclaimed by the New Republic. It was their headquarters. Now, at the time of Dark Empire, the Empire has come and taken Coruscant again, so there's some connective tissue and some things that seems a little willy-nilly, but the EU has come around it and kind of filled it in continuity-wise, that we'll talk about in a moment. But go ahead, Al.
was kind of like the Empire was, if I remember correctly, it wasn't so much a an organized front, but like several different factions.
Yeah, the Empire was all these different factions arising in the empty place that the Emperor
So,
left.
sounds very much like what happened after they got rid of the Caesars, and then
Yeah,
every general worth their salt and with an army tried to declare
exactly.
themselves emperor.
Yeah, and
But
that was going on in the X-Wing Chronicles as well, which were written later but taking place even before the Thrawn trilogy. So yeah, that's been going on for a
where
while, continuity wise.
where does in his, because I don't know when things were published, Shadows of the Empire with Shizor. Where did that fit?
Oh,
Was that earlier, after,
yeah.
later, during?
Shadows of the Empire is between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Okay, but as far as when it was published,
Oh, that was later. That was like early 2000s, I think.
oh, okay, because
Yeah.
I remember that was a big deal.
Yeah, because Lucas was really kind of heavily involved with that. I didn't write it, but he was really pushing that, and that was
Yeah.
with the Star Wars bloom with the prequels coming out soon and stuff like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just trying to see where, because you were talking about the birth of the EU,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, I remember the big deal about that, and I just was wondering when that came about, because I knew it was a big thing.
Yeah. 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 No. So thinking about this, and this is really getting into my criticism with Tom Veitch here in his writing of Dark Empire anyway. He's been given this clean slate. Hey, you get to continue the Star Wars story from the original trilogy. Everybody's dreamt of doing that ever since Lucas decided he wasn't writing any more stories. Everybody gets every child got the toys and was playing further, adventures and whatnot. And other than the Marvel comics, which weren't really accepted as any kind of main Lucas connected continuity anyway. So Dark Horse is doing this. Tom Veitch has a chance of a lifetime here, and you've got this trilogy of movies about this incredibly aspirational hero who decides that I'm not going to fall to the dark side. I'm going to even believe that my father can be redeemed from the dark side. This is how much I believe in the Force and the good side of the Force. And I'm going to take down this crazy evil emperor to redeem my father. This crazy evil, and it was such a big deal. Think about, watching Return of the Jedi for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
The emperor is actually defeated. What a big deal that was. How wonderful it is for Luke to overcome all of this and prove that the good side can prevail and so forth. And then you give it to a writer and say, okay, what comes next? What if like that hero like fell to the dark side? And then what if like the bad guy comes back? Yeah, like let's do that. Like this is the dumbest idea, stupidest idea. No, do you understand what was so great about that trilogy? Do you want to continue in the spirit of it, or do you just want to let's bring back everything and just redo it in a different way? I mean, that's just how asinine and stupid and short-sighted and ignorant of an approach everything in Dark Empire is from the ground up. Now, Tom Veitch was not a stupid or ignorant writer. He was skilled. It's a well done story, for a comic anyway, pacing wise and so forth. But I just and now he'll say in his defense, he said in the past that he got Lucas's blessing. Lucas thought, oh, that's an interesting idea. And that just makes me want to slap George Lucas in the face too. Because again, love and respect George Lucas and will forever be grateful to him for giving us these characters. But he has said some really boneheaded things about what he would have done in the continuation of them as well. And I've talked about that in the past. So just really, just let's just acknowledge how stupid that is of an idea to continue. What if, I mean, that's something that a writer finds interesting, but the audience is like, what do you know? That's stupid. That's dumb. What if the hero wasn't the hero? Yeah, think about that. No, that's dumb. Let's not do that, So I just have to get that out of the way.
What it sounded like he was trying to do was the hero still thought he was the hero, was trying to figure out why daddy fell to the dark side, thought he was a little bit bigger than his own britches,
mm-hmm.
and did get tempted. And it, of course, took suddenly we have a prophecy.
Yeah.
about the twins who walk the sky, or whatever it was,
Yeah. And that's not a. Oh, go ahead. I thought you were
and I just thought, I mean, I could see where he was coming from.
Mhm.
I just, when I was doing it, I was like, man, yeah, okay, this just seems lazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because I really wanted to just get that vent out of the way, because I think it deserves to be really punched in the face. The story needs to be punched in the face for that reason. Just no strings attached. We just need to make that criticism. But after that, then let's go into some details and try to figure out what he was trying. And you hit on some great you hit on some great points there. So Leia, he's writing without the Thrawn trilogy in mind at first. Now, he later did make sure that his story was in accord with the continuity of the Thrawn trilogy, but he's trying to make good on that promise of Leia being, possibly another hope, should something happen to Luke.
Mhm.
And as you said, Luke doesn't decide he wants to be evil. That's not how it works out. He finds this recording of the Emperor. The Emperor himself has been trying to make a holocron, but can't do it because he's so dark side, and that's kind of weird too. But Luke is trying to understand how his father fell, for the sake of helping the Republic, helping the Alliance, for the sake of trying to not go down that path. And Luke makes a very okay. Luke makes a very short-sighted decision, saying, "Okay, well, I'll say yes to the Emperor and I'll work with him, and in doing this, I will." Um, Echo, stop! This is playing Christmas music over there. She can't get enough. He decides, okay, I'm going to work from within to sabotage the Emperor's machinations. I'll say yes to being the Emperor's apprentice so that I can sabotage what he's doing.
Mhm.
And so even though that's a silly idea or silly decision, he's still not going to the dark side because he decides he wants to be evil all of a sudden. Now, this is a picture of these world devastators, Al, that you were talking about.
I saw the vague pictures, but I'm just trying to. I never got a good concept of how they worked.
Yeah. The art in this it's not my favorite for a Star Wars tale. I do like the art. I think it's a fine stylized art. It's Cam Kennedy, but I don't think it was the right fit for the first telling of Star Wars, in so many years. And it is so stylized, it's kind of hard to pin down some specifics here and there, of what things look like. But the idea of the world devastators too, it's another step in this theme of like what the Death Star was. Now, a lot of people take that as a criticism. I don't mind that so much. Whether it's the Star Forge and the Knights of the Old Republic, the Death Star, the World Devastators here, they're trying to demolish and just bring utter wreck and ruin to a planet. Now, the World Devastators aren't quite as effective as the Death Star because that can just boom, planet's gone. The Devastators are even more horrific in a way because they come to the planet. Do you remember seeing that episode of Stargate SG-1 when that alien ship was coming to a planet to terraform it and make it a different climate that could support these different aliens or whatever that live there? I don't know if you remember that episode.
I mean, I vaguely, but
Yeah.
So basically, like, really bad stuff was coming out of the bottom to rip the planet apart.
Yeah, it wasn't even making it habitable for anybody. It was just wrecking the planet. Let's just wreck everything about the planet. Climate, vegetation, everything. Let's just wreck it. So that's what's going on with these world devastators, and Luke is working from within to try to sabotage. And he does. He allows the Alliance to take out the devastators here and there, Of course, the Emperor knows this. The Emperor knows what he's doing. And
Oh, I'm sorry. There was that section where you say it's like, I got the impression that it's like, well, he knows that I know that he knows that I know.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, good. And I started losing place of who knew who was doing what.
It gets convoluted, yeah. And again, it's the kind of thing that I think is interesting to a writer, but not to the audience. If you love these characters, you don't want to see Luke even pretending to be bad and then having him and Han say horrible things to each other,
And the thing is, even that's the problem I had with Han too. Is like Han just wouldn't let it go.
Mhm,
He even when he knew, well, or should have known that Luke was a good guy or was being influenced,
mhm.
he still is like, you know, just a pain. He just wouldn't buy it. Couldn't trust him. I'm like, after
Yeah,
everything you've been to get through together.
exactly. Now I see where Veach was going with this, and that Han's arc in this story is coming to terms with, and by the end he does come to terms with the fact that he has to trust in Leia, trust in the Force, because he's not used to that. He's a smuggler,
Mhm.
so he does have to trust that some things are bigger than what he can understand, which is an interesting arc for him, and that's fine. And I think that the scenes without Luke, that was just Han, Chewie, and Leia, I think they were very well done. I loved meeting Zala, his ex
Mhm.
girlfriend. I think she was a great character to bring in. I love it when they go back to Nar Shaddaa, and even Boba Fett coming in there. I think that was really cool. Those are great action scenes, and it seems to me that was much more comfortable writing Han than he was, or even had an understanding of who Luke was or what mattered to him. And that carries over into Luke and Han's relationship, which goes into
Mhm.
what you're saying. Like, shouldn't Han cut him a little more
Yeah,
slack with everything they've been through?
it just seemed a
Yeah,
bit weird.
exactly. Yeah. So there's good stuff in it. If you're an ardent Dark Empire supporter, I'm not just saying it's utter garbage from top to bottom. I think there's some
Oh
great
no.
stuff in it. Tom Veitch does, if, to my knowledge, it's the first time Ulic Qel-Droma is mentioned by the Holocron, and of course, Veitch would go on and use Ulic Qel-Droma in the Tales of the Jedi, in the Old Republic stories. So that's interesting stuff. Um, I will say that part two and part three, aside from bringing back the Emperor every freaking turn,
Yeah, well,
I think,
once you go down the clone route,
yeah,
ever shall it dominate your story's path.
yeah. And I do think it works in the continuity of the EU overall, but it's just like, you don't bring back the same. This is like Jafar Returns. What do we do with the next movie?
Well,
What if the bad guy didn't die? Like, you
yeah,
don't do that right away.
I mean, look what Disney did.
Hmm.
I mean, they brought the Emperor back
Yeah.
and tried exactly what he was doing in here
Hmm.
then,
Yeah.
or at least maybe I think they well, that last film was just,
Yeah.
terrible dumpster fire beginning to end. But that, and also in Mandalorian they were trying to kind of do a well, not from that, but more of a just, the bad guy trying to perfect himself through a clone.
Now, in defense of this, though, this was early 90s, before the Clone Wars was ever fleshed out,
Mhm.
before we ever really had this overdone idea of clones, clones, clones in the Star Wars. And I don't hate the idea of it. Again, coming later on in the continuity, I don't hate the idea of the Emperor possibly coming back. In fact, in the Star Wars The Old Republic game, the MMO, there's a campaign eventually in which your character encounters an emperor of a who is the emperor of the Sith, who does this kind of thing, transferring consciousness kind of thing. So it's not, so in the, again, this is just an example of how, if you look at the EU after everything was packed onto it, yes, it can make sense. um Looking at it just as a story, especially the time it came out, what are you doing? you know
Mhm.
um One thing I was going to save this for a moment later, but if you're trying to get an idea of how it works out in the Star Wars continuity, West End Games, I've really got to give it to them. They have done so much from back in the day to really make the continuity of the EU work. This is the source book, the West End Games source book for the Dark Empire role playing game. Add on to the Star Wars role playing game, and they've got a great prologue here. It's like 2 or 3 page prologue in telling you what where are we at now when Dark Empire starts, what's happened, what's gone on. And it really talks about how it just makes some things make sense. Okay, well, if the New Republic reclaimed Coruscant, and we've been through all the stuff we've been through with the X-Wing Chronicles, we've been through the Thrawn trilogy that was victorious, and it points out things. It says, a people who have been so long under oppression don't really know how to handle freedom. They don't really know how to suddenly handle the responsibility of democracy and so forth, and suddenly living under a republic with the democratic elected leaders. So it talks about how and then the factions of the empire, the remnants, as you said, the different warlords, different old generals trying to vie for power. It makes sense that it would kind of fluctuate, go back and forth. Maybe Coruscant's taken, maybe it's reclaimed, and so forth, back and forth a bit. So that kind of thing makes it a little easier. It does talk about how it puts the Thrawn trilogy in context of this. Um, the Empire forced rebels from Coruscant, capital of the Republic. Still, the Empire was plagued by factionism. Um, the rebels learned that the Empire had changed and had reformed, each faction working together, all swearing loyalty to an unseen master. So suddenly, what's different about Dark Empire when it starts from the remnants of the Empire since Endor is that suddenly they're all kind of swearing fealty to an unseen master, even more so than they were with Thrawn. And that's ultimately Lord Sidious coming back. So again, this is just another example of how. And then when you look at the Old Republic, kind of setting the precedent for a Sith Lord being so powerful to maybe transfer consciousness, it does work in the fluidity of the whole dark EU continuity. But I just don't know what they were thinking when they just wrote it, from the beginning.
Well, yeah,
Good.
but like say after reading Darth Plagueis, and you do find out that uh, each Dark Lord was trying to figure out how to extend their existence somehow.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could almost see that maybe this was Sidious's idea of being able to do the thought transfer, much like Darth, the whole Darth Bane.
Yeah.
Was going. So it's the pieces are there that if a Dark Lord just wants to, maybe this is the path he took.
Yeah.
So I can't. You're right. You can't really fault that being in it, or as a concept that's something that Palpatine might want to try.
Yeah. And Eldritch fan, I'm just looking at the chat here. As I'm saying, as I'm pointing out, there are good things about the story. I liked the background of Han, Zala's character. I like Nink's. I like the betrayal and whatnot going on in Nar Shaddaa. I like you might think, oh, you bring back Boba Fett already. Well, yeah, I get that, but knowing how he came back in the EU anyway and so forth, it's an interesting little good. It points to Chewie to the rescue as usual. Chewie's always there to save him.
And you got E-wing fighter, a new fighter.
Yeah, the E-wing fighter. That's good.
That's a cool fighter.
And Eldritch fan said, I tried to find things to like about it. Interesting. How Leia portrayed as a divine mother figure. 100% agree. Now, the baby she's born with, she's had her two twins, Janice and Jason, and this is Anakin Solo. They name him Anakin after, Anakin's. So this is Anakin Solo, and he's, it's interesting. Palpatine wants to possess the child. That's an interesting, enough with the clones. Let me possess an actual new child who's so powerful in the Force, which of course we saw from Darth Bane and all of that stuff as well.
And then during the final confrontation, when they combined, when Leia and Luke, she realized there was a third consciousness there that was also helping, and that really gave me a little bit of Dune vibes with Ilia. Or Alia, sorry. And so yeah, I don't know Anakin. I haven't read or know Anakin's story, but I was just wondering if he was kind of like self-aware in the womb. If that was a thing. And
well, he has to be self-aware enough to join them. He joins his power to theirs, so it is something like that. Well, even in the Thrawn trilogy, Jenna and Leia was talking to Jenna and Jason, so there's a sentience there, as well. And it's interesting. I know I'm just looking at some of the chats here. I know Elf Runner saying that he just tries to like this but can't bring himself to like it. I get it. Again, thinking about Luke's continuity and what the EU has done in this and come around it, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so like you take just there's been a lot of stories in between, of course, but let's just take Return of the Jedi, the Thrawn trilogy, and the Dark Empire, and then moving into the Jedi Academy, which is the kind of the big next step. Well, that's great that in Return of the Jedi, Luke refuses to give up on his father, knows he can be saved, and is proven right. Yes, he can be saved. In the Thrawn trilogy, he learns a lot of things, but Luke learns when he's trying to save Jeruah Sabaoth, some people just can't be saved. There are people out there that you try and try and try, but they won't be saved. And the clone of Jeruah Sabaoth, we know that he can't be saved, or refuses to allow himself to be saved. So then you get to Dark Empire, and maybe Luke is learns that he shouldn't quite trust himself as much as he thinks he could in terms of the ability and strength to resist the dark side. The lesson he learns from this is that don't even dabble. That's dangerous. You don't touch that stuff, not even for curiosity's sake. Again, in my own kind of, looking back on the EU, I just refuse to kind of admit that some of the things in the Dark Empire happened the way they did. But I do think overall, continuity wise, I like the progression, because after this, he goes into starting the academy and really founding the new Jedi Order. And Dark Empire 2 and 3 are much better than this first one. We do have some new characters, and some good things happen in 2 and 3 that we're going to do the radio dramas for in the next couple of weeks. So there's that as well.
And the Eclipse. Oh, what a big ship.
Oh yeah, the Eclipse, yeah.
The
ships in there.
Yeah, you know me and my love of ships. So I had to look that up, see. I was like, well, let me see what this thing is, get a good idea for it.
Yeah.
The art was a little iffy with it. I'm like, yikes. It's like a superstar destroyer or steroids.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Andre Hernandez, I think the original idea was going to be a Vader imposter. That's interesting. I didn't know about that. And somebody said it was Bantam Books at first before it went to Del Rey. Yeah, I knew it was at Del Rey at first, but I couldn't quite get the Bantam was first. That makes sense. And yeah, Samuel Proctor, I do agree. The 80s Marvel Star Wars comics were great. We'll talk about those at some point. They're not EU continuity, but they were a fun little thing that happened before that anyway.
Yeah, still got a bag in the living room.
And I do want to point out that Tales of the Jedi is great. Even though to be honest, I just like Kevin J. Anderson's writing better than Tom Veitch's, but Tom Veitch did some great stuff in Tales of the Jedi, rather, which is the Old Republic. Even before Knights of the Old Republic, comics, which is great stuff. And you think like Andrea Hernandez says, well, it would make sense that Luke would want to learn about the dark side. If he's going to become a teacher, then he would have to learn the dangers of the dark side. Yeah, kind of know your enemy kind of thing. Sure, that much, sure. Yeah.
If you don't learn what is it? If you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to find out why his father did. If you try to stop it. And I think it was Palpatine still being alive was the catch he didn't see.
Yeah. Now this is interesting to see what you think about this. Nathaniel Losball really didn't like Boba Fett's voice in the drama. What'd you think of that?
Honestly, don't remember or really remember it.
It was just a voice like this. I'll get you, Solo. It wasn't great. It's just very
it must have been so much. I know it happened, but I don't really.
Yeah,
it wasn't enough that I really registered it.
I did appreciate in the radio drama the actors for Luke, Han, and Leia. I think Yeah,
I think they did a good job. Of course, the guy who did Lando absolutely nailed it.
So much like Billy D. Williams.
Wow.
And Chewie was great, man. Chewie was awesome.
And C3PO was actually good. I thought.
Yeah.
I never did C3PO.
Mm-hmm. I should point out too. I just want to take a moment to give props before I forget. Is the I don't know if this is the I should have looked up into this a little bit more, but I don't know the channel that I linked to that has all these dramas. It's let it load up so I can get the channel name of it. Mr. Poke. That's the name of the channel. Now I don't know if I don't think Mr. Poke might not have been the one to actually put this together, but and he might be, I don't know. But whoever put together this motion comic over the radio drama, it's just really well done. Whoever did this, hats off to them. And if Mr. Poke didn't do it, just hats off to you for making it available to us, because you can go to his channel and they've got a lot of these dramas. That's where you can watch part 2 and part 3. All of the original trilogy radio dramas, the Old Republic radio dramas and stuff like that. So it's a lot of good stuff there. I do just want to take a second and say that. Just popping into the chat here to see some more stuff.
Andres Hernandez was just how about Palpatine's voice actor?
Yeah, that was decent. I thought that was okay.
He was all right.
Yeah.
All you have to do is do this.
Yeah. There was some of the dialogue of Palpatine that left me thinking, would Palpatine really say that? But then you got to think too, well, he's trying to coax Leia, into joining the dark side. And then I thought, well, maybe if that's the kind of thing he might have said to Mara, then
and that was creepy. He kept calling her daughter.
Help the old man to his bed.
Like ew.
Elf Runner points out here that especially force sensitive people, they don't clone very well, as seen in The Force Unleashed. But then Vader was able to perfect that. Yeah, so so the cloning thing, again, it's just another example of how the EU has come around this and kind of made it make a little more sense. Yeah.
Someone should have done a story of like Darth Vader trying to clone himself so he could get a repaired body.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a nice little.
And it makes sense that he would, try to enough of these clones. Like I said, let's get into an actual person's body.
Elf Runner's talking about Sam Witwer. Sam Witwer is
oh yeah,
godsend.
He's a wonderful voice actor. Yeah,
nice guy. Nice guy too.
His Star Killer was just wonderful. And his Maul was great, even though I don't like where the animation ultimately took it. But yeah. Synth Cell of the Synthetic Man says, at least Dark Empire has a better story than the Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi series. I haven't read all of those yet, so I can't really chime in on that, but I appreciate your opinion on that there. What are you doing over there, Nut? Are you feeling better? She's cracking herself up over there or something. Samuel Proctor says, even then, Luke didn't kill Sabaoth. Mara did through impalement. Yeah. Andre Hernandez says, I think this is the point where Luke understandably experiences fear that the Sith could come back. It makes sense for why he would push Leia and Han away to face this new threat. Yeah, I mean, because this is a very different threat than the Thrawn trilogy. Even with Sabaoth isn't, I mean, he's dark side of the Force, but he isn't so much a Sith proper, right? He's just sort of this aberration wanting to use the Force for himself, which does lead to the dark side and so forth. Mm-hmm. So this is the first real Sith threat, I believe, continuity wise, since Return of the Jedi. If I'm remembering correctly. Okay, just make sure I didn't miss anything here. Did anybody laugh when Leia just flipped over Palpatine's bed? I would be laughing if that actually kills him. Yeah, no, it didn't. But yeah.
He was a feeble old man.
And, as you were saying, Al, the bringing together Luke and Leia, really joining their Force powers in there. Mm-hmm. And, this is another thing. Leia, as that divine mother, really, in the Thrawn trilogy, we see her play into her strengths as a diplomat. Desperately needed, and this is her shining and being a hero as a diplomat, which is all of her power and strength. By now, Luke has trained her a lot more in the Force, and she's doing a lot more Force sensitive things to help in the battle. And even cuts off, cuts down the Sentinel. Force choking her, or choking Han and whatnot. With her lightsaber. So a little bit more of a Force, warrior here, which is great. And even so, I do appreciate that the novel doesn't try to replace Luke with her. Even at the end, she's saying, I need you to train my son, my unborn child. I need you to train my children, and he tells her at the end, yeah, this is going to be the beginning of the new Jedi Order, and so forth. So I like the fact that them just kind of shining together, even in this book, didn't try to replace him with her, which is good. So
I did like that. I
you
did
feel
like that.
better. Good.
I did
Go
like
ahead.
the one. There was that one part where she was trying to convince Han of something, and she kind of sweet talked him, and said, "And I forget which characters I was like. Do you think she used the Jedi mind trick on you?"
Yeah. He said, "No, I'm just learning that there are things I
Yeah,
can't control." Or no, what did he say? He said, "Of all the women in the world, I married the one that was as stubborn as I am."
yeah, yeah. I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
That's a very Han thing to say.
it is. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
that was a good piece of writing there.
Darth Enigma says, "Would you say that the Leia is being portrayed as a parallel to the Virgin Mary, in the sense that they're both sort of divine mother archetypes? Absolutely. I don't think we're trying to make a Virgin Mary type specifically out of her, but yeah, in the sense of the both being the divine mother, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, a very strong character, and yeah, she is she's given birth to three powerful children.
Yeah,
So I mean, yeah, she may not be quote unquote holy,
yeah,
but she definitely is, and she ain't no virgin,
mhm,
but she's definitely someone to be held in high regard
yeah,
for what she has done and for what her children are going to be able to do.
yeah. We got a couple comments here, pointing out the power scale first of Luke and then of the Emperor here. But Andre Hernandez says, "Is anyone going to talk about how Luke just destroyed that AT-AT or at Walker in the beginning?" And you're right. If you think about, in Empire Strikes Back, when Luke takes down an AT-AT, really cool, awesome heroism. At this point, he's so powerful in the Force that he just kind of, lays it out. But you also don't know, is this because he's even a little bit tainted with the dark side and his curiosity of it? Um, but it's a bit much. Yeah, we don't want to give them in this world. You don't want to give them too crazy big powers. Eldridge Fan talks about the Force Storm that the Emperor pulls out at the end. Now I know where Veach was going with that. You're kind of going back and forth with the tension. Are the heroes going to be able to overcome the villain or not? You're kind of going back and forth and sort of like winning little battles. And then the Emperor says, "You fools don't even know the extent of my power." And you would imagine Emperor's got to have amazingly crazy, huge power as he does. But it's a little, I don't know. I can see how people
Also,
would say it's a bit much.
it kind of backfired too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me just send out this force storm that's going to take out your army. If you could do that, dude, why were you doing that before?
Yeah,
So yeah.
it's just like if I remember, was the Bane trilogy where they took out all the Jedi with that explosion thing
Hmm.
in the cave, and it just left all their souls in there.
Yeah, the Bane trilogy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. Like the Force Bomb, I think is what
Hmm.
they called it.
Yeah, force bomb is what it was. Yeah, yeah. Um, Eldritch Fan said that the jumps, Luke's development between moves was also a time jump. Development between, or do you mean development between movies? Do you mean the movies? Oh, between movies, you mean? Oh, no, you mean the original trilogy? No, that's not. It's one thing to set a movie a little down the line from another movie. That's fine. It's another thing to set an episode of a show far, far down the line just because you can't deal with the character development. So I don't think that's quite the same thing. But you can tell me what you think about that. Thought bomb, Darth Enigma said. Was it called a thought bomb?
Was it a thought bomb?
I don't remember. Force bomb or thought bomb.
Thought it was some bomb.
Yeah, so one of those kinds of bombs.
Yeah, something went off and did bad things.
Yeah. That's a given, Andre Hernandez. EU Luke is better than Disney Luke. Well, yeah, duh. I mean, that's we
Oh
will eventually get
yeah,
into the Jedi trilogy or Jedi Academy, excuse me. Um, I think after we do part 2 of Dark Empire and part 3, we're going to go ahead and do Outbound Flight, since it's the new unabridged audio is available for those who want to just read the audio. But I think that's what we'll do there. So next, anyway. but yeah, we'll eventually be getting farther. I'm going to kind of like keep bouncing back and forth, getting some of the old Republic or our prequel stuff, and then getting some of the you know newer stuff too. So
Yeah, that'd be kind of, I'm kind of looking forward to that.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess do you have anything else to say about Dark Empire? Any other?
No,
Like I said, we're not really going through the whole plot of it. You know, just
yeah. Overall, like I said, I liked it with reservations.
Mhm.
A few of the character choices that were made, but yeah, I mean it was decent. It was a good action packed story, and the clone thing definitely was. I could see where they were going with it.
Mhm.
I don't know how successful they were with it, and I'm just wondering if they're going to continue with that. You know, Palpatine
Yeah.
was wanting to bounce around between people, which could get kind of old.
Yeah, yeah, and it will get old definitely if it keeps going. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's I forget what some movie or TV show where like the bad guy kept jumping between people,
Mhm.
jumping between bodies. And you're like,
Yeah.
you never know who it is.
Yeah. You know, some cool things. You know, Vima, the old Jedi who had hidden from Order 66 on Nar Shaddaa, cool character. That's not Vima Nomi Sunrider's daughter, though. That's you know, just in case anybody was getting confused. Bodo Baas, the Jedi in the Holocron. That's an interesting character. You know, given the you know the more about the prophecy. You know, just kind of playing into more of the fact that kind of you know, as I say, the
Now, what did the Sith have?
Holocron. They've had Holocrons in the
Yeah, they
past.
had stuff because Bane was getting them.
Yeah. Now here though, it's you know, where Sidious says he's unable to make a holocron. I haven't read enough of the EU around that area to figure out if that was ever sort of just abandoned that idea, or if they ever kind of explained it why he couldn't create a
Wife's
holocron at this point.
wife's home.
What's that? Why
The,
so?
wife's is home. The wife.
Oh, yeah, my wife is home. Hello, my dear sound engraver. Yeah, we're wrapping up here. I'm gonna call it here in a few minutes. I'm just getting out any last ideas we have here. Oh, so yeah, some good stuff in it that carries on. And again, just shout out again to Kevin J. Anderson and West End Games. I know we're so many decades after the fact now, but just thankful for them to really uh, make this work as an EU. Now, after the fact, I don't know if I don't know if they would have kept Dark Empire in the EU if they had the choice. It's kind of like they got the ball rolling. They hired different entities, hired these two people to tell Star Wars stories, and then they realized we're working on a whole continuity now, so they just kind of had to marry things and move it forward. I don't know if they would have kept Dark Empire in if they had a choice or not, but it all worked out in the end. They did some good stuff with it there.
Super chat.
Thank you. Andre Hernandez, $5 said Vin Diesel would be proud of this comic. Luke Skywalker was saved from the dark side because of family. You know, you said Vin Diesel in my mind. We've been talking about the Bane trilogy. Back in the day, Vin Diesel would have been a great Bane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would have been good back in his heyday, anyway. Since of the Synthetic Man said, I love the color scheme of the pages, showing Palp's lab, the greens, the darks, the blues, creepy and Lovecraftian a bit. Luke's outfit is also great. Yeah, I don't hate the art objectively. I think the art's wonderful. I like the stylized, the expressionistic aspects of the color, the things it's doing. I do. It just doesn't look like Star Wars to me, which doesn't mean that every Star Wars comic has to look exactly like the movie, but I don't know. It just maybe it was too soon to try and get crazy abstract expressionistic. But then again, you had the Marvel comics doing something more straight line too. So I don't know. Um, I'm not hating the art in general. I think it's good art. It just didn't appeal to me for this story. But you're right. The artist was doing great things with it.
Andres, didn't the comic establish how Palpatine ages faster because of the dark side?
Yeah, as he said, his power, his level of the dark side, physical forms aren't able to
But it's like burns the battery up.
burns through it. Yeah, they're not able to
Yeah.
accommodate him, you know. So he
Yeah.
burns through things a lot faster. Yeah. Yeah. Um, could you resist the chance to write a scene with Palpatine, even if you had to mangle continuity a little? I could personally. I understand the desire to do it, but such a story, logic fan that I am, or whatever. Yeah. Um, Samuel Proctor said, I did prefer this comic's version of the explanation of Palpatine's face over the prequels' contrived force lightning. The dark side drains the body. Yeah, that didn't make a lot of sense. If I use so much force lighting or get attacked, I'll just become. Although we saw in Darth Plagueis, talking about that is a mark of the body. So much time, will do that. It's kind of like a picture of Dorian Gray. Such foul deeds are going to leave their traces on the visage. That's a pretty interesting concept. But I do like this better. The physical form just can't accommodate his dark side evil. So yeah, I think we're pretty much at the end here. Again, I know this we'll only go about an hour anyway with these, but we just tend to take smaller chunks of the story and really dissect the narrative. I just don't feel like doing that with these. Plus, they're graphic novels, and I feel like you can't do that so much without having a lot more of the art to show. And every time I show a lot more of the art, once or twice I've gotten dinged for like a copyright claim or something on that, which is silly because we're dissecting it, we're analyzing it, But so I think this has to be the way we do it with this. Plus, it's the holidays, so it's not something that I have to do so much meticulous homework on. So yeah, this was part one. Next week will be part two, which I'll put a link. You can go to that same channel or just search Dark Empire 2, and you'll see the drama of that, the definitive drama from the same channel, as well as part 3. And then after that, just to give you a heads up, we will be going through Outbound Flight. So pick that. And Outbound Flight is Thrawn's first entrance into the universe in terms of the EU. Again, not dealing with Disney continuity, but just the EU. So it's a great one to go through. What's coming up from you on your channel, Al?
Well, as usual, I've been dropping some reviews in the past week. I dropped one for The Shift today, the Angel Studios the Christian sci-fi film.
Oh, I hadn't heard about that.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you.
Oh, is that the Shift? Oh, yeah, the what's his name?
Neil McDonough.
Yeah, Neil McDonough, Dum Dum Dugan, and the guy from Arrow and whatnot. Yeah, he's a great actor. Yeah, I saw like a preview of that. It looked pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool film. Also did the rom-com Anyone But You. Got Journey to Bethlehem, the musical based on Mary and Joseph and the birth of Jesus. Got the Iron Claw, Rebel Moon, and of course Aquaman.
So Al has been cranking out Big Al reviews, is doing reviews.
10,
that's for sure.
10 words is all it takes sometimes. A little bit of extra maybe at the end. But
yeah.
But tomorrow night at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, I'll be doing Films with Friends. We're going to be watching Operation Petticoat from 1959. Cary Grant and Tony Curtis.
Cool.
And a pink submarine. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a good classic comedy.
Can't beat that. Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, I'll be doing a stream tomorrow night, as usual, my office hour streams. And tomorrow night, I'm going to talk about, because it's, the last stream before New Year's, I'm going to talk about the best stories I've encountered, movies, comics, video games, whatever, books, through this past year. Not the stories that came out this year, not this year's best of books or what, because I just don't follow new stuff, and I don't think much of it's worth talking about anyway. So I'm going to be talking about the the older books, movies, video games, comics that I've encountered this past year that I recommend, that I think are pretty good. So I'll be talking about that. Got some other comments and topics that can pop up, or ideas, little tangents we get on. That's tomorrow night. Usually at 9:30 is when those are. Sunday, my dear wife Sound Engraver is going to be streaming a little bit earlier than usual at 4 p.m. because we're going to do some New Year's Eve festivities as well there, because Sunday's New Year's Eve. I keep remembering that. But she's going to stream at 4 p.m. So you can check her out there. But yeah, make sure you go, listen. I promise that Dark Empire 2 is more interesting and better and not as infuriating as Dark Empire 1 in a lot of ways, even though there was good stuff in Dark Empire 1. And we're getting a little bit farther into the EU and stuff and continuity wise. And maybe I'll even read some of the portions from the source book or something next time. So yeah, check that out and keep coming back and joining us. Last word, Al?
No, just good to be back doing this, discussing the EU. I enjoy this. I like spending time with the professor and getting into my own little dark side character every day.
Darth Sever.
Darth
We need,
Sever.
we need Al Baca to pop in now and then, though.
Oh, he may pop in.
Yeah, so thanks guys for popping in. Thanks for your comments and your thoughts. I'll be going back and reading through some more of them that I just couldn't get to in this short hour stream. But until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue Star Wars stories, the EU, that you love best. Thanks for watching.
Goodbye.